next speaker. I love that noise, it's so fun. And it's just a friendly reminder, just out of respect to the person that's speaking. I totally get if you're having brainstorms or ideas or things are happening. Feel free to take those conversations outside. Just lower your voice. The background noise is a little bit distracting. So if I can have like a thumbs up that everyone's cool with that. Higher, like you mean it, cool. So if you have to talk or you get excited, where are you gonna go? Perfect, awesome. You're gonna go outside. I feel like a kindergarten teacher. This is awesome. So our next speaker, I'm really excited to bring up, is the CEO and founder of Man of the World Media, Peter Weltman. He's going to share with us a generative AI masterclass on unleashing creative opportunity. Everybody welcome Peter.
It's been amazing to listen to all of this security talk and all the things that we need to do to make sure that we don't mess up along the way. But we're going to switch gears and we're going to go for big, explosive creativity, and everything you're going to learn today will put you in the 90th percentile of what anybody knows when it comes to generative AI and creating assets in the visual realm. So I'm ready to go. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Hello, beautiful DigiMarCon people. I'm the better Vader. Pink, Vader. Pay close attention to what Man of the World teaches you today. Creativity's future is in your hands.
That's right, creativity's future is in your hands. And we're thrilled to be here to put everybody in this room in the driver's seat to supercharge all of your marketing with generative AI's explosive power. So 3 things to keep in mind as I go through the presentation. 1, we're going to teach you all of our generative AI workflows that we use at our agency. 2, we're going to dive a little bit deeper and really teach you how to parameterize all of these tools so you can ensure the output. It's cool, they're bringing in more tables for more people, which is amazing. We're going to teach you how to parameterize all of these generative AI tools so you not just know the names of these technologies, but how to direct them for getting exactly what you want. And number 3, the last really big thing is to understand the copyright landscape with creating generative AI outputs. It's still a little bit of an open field, and we've been working alongside our legal team to really understand what's ownable, what's not, and how can you own something that you create. So we will share that with you as well. To say words are important to me would be the understatement of the century. I've been a storyteller my entire career, became a journalist before getting into owning my own creative brand communications agency. So words and stringing them together for the purpose of brand, that's exactly what we do. And we're incredibly proud when something hits the page, the website, the press release. It's the effort that goes into taking this huge amount of information and ensuring that what's left on the page is dense and makes sense and hits the world in a really beautiful way. And yet, on the other side, there's this kind of creative brain afoot where everything is colorful and rainbows and butterflies and this incredibly creative corpus from which we start. So I suspect a lot of people in the room operate like I do, where they're always thinking in these incredibly creative ways, and yet their output, which I'm sure you're very proud of, is somewhat more tame. So this is how you operate, this is how you think. Then generative AI these are the tools for you. And we'd like you to join us in our charter at Man of the World Media to animate and illuminate the world. And we're going to show you how to do that using specifically text to image to video, so you can bring a lot of things to life. But don't just take my word for it or my agency's word for it. Last night I was at the Orpheum Theater in downtown Los Angeles for the 2nd annual AI Film Awards. And this was put on by one of the best tools out there, which I will show you how to use today, called Runway. Last year, Runway received 300 shorts for this film festival. This year, they received 3,000. So to say that generative AI is changing the film industry and what we do as marketers, again, understatement of the century. And one of the people who's leading this charge has become a very dear friend of mine and a mentor named Dave Clark, who's actually San Diego based. Dave is a traditional advertiser. He makes his money working with big brands in a pretty traditional way. And yet he got extremely curious and came out with this short that he made in what he called a coffee break. When I saw that, I said, I need to learn as much about these tools as possible because that blew me away. And already in the last 2 months, it's just been explosive in how these tools are advancing. So if you will, join me where the rubber hits the road, and we will illuminate all these tools for you to learn how we at Manifold Media use generative AI to bring concepts to life. So there's 4 main tools that I'm going to teach you today. You probably hear about a lot of tools. We've identified and battle tested the tools for you and have selected 4 that we believe are the best and bring them together to create amazing output. So the 4 tools, number 1 is Midjourney, which I would suspect a lot of people have heard about. This is the best text to image generative AI tool out there. Number 2 is Magnific. Magnific is fantastic for taking all those outputs that you create on Midjourney and bringing their resolution up, or what we call up-resing, to an incredible quality. Next, Runway. Runway is the company that put on the film festival yesterday, and they are kind of a Canva of generative AI. So while they do a lot of things, I will show you how we take still images and animate them. And finally, Topaz Labs. Yeah, this is a great slide to take a picture of. Topaz Labs will take everything we created in Runway, the video, and bring them to an incredibly cinematic quality. So Midjourney. Midjourney creates unbelievable images from a text prompt. So anything you can think of, any combinations that you've always wanted to try, designing a hotel in the style of Philippe Pantone or a car in the style of your favorite artist, you can now accomplish that. And these are just a handful of the many, many images that I've created on Midjourney. Just out of quick curiosity, has anybody used Midjourney in here? Okay, just a handful. It makes sense. Midjourney is fantastic, but I'll be honest, it's a little difficult to use right now. So Midjourney, unlike going to a traditional website right now, actually runs through Discord. So you prompt the Discord, this is also a great slide to take a picture of. You prompt the Discord bot in order to prompt to create these images. And to start to accomplish what you want to do, before you start typing the creativity in your brain, there are some settings that I think are incredibly important to know and will help set you apart than somebody who's just starting or a competitor, etc. So right now, always start with the latest version, if that makes sense. The latest version right now is the V6 Alpha, and seem to be coming out with new models and updated models pretty regularly, and with those new models come not only better outputs, but even more opportunities to create. I use the aspect ratio of 16:9 because I want a really wide cinematic output. I'd rather have more than less, although you can create that for any size that you use, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, etc. And then the next two, style. So 625 is the default, and I like to ratchet it up. If you see in my parameters at the bottom, I have it at 725. Style settings tell these prompts how essentially creative it can get with what you type in to the prompt itself. And finally, there's chaos. There's more settings, but these are the four that I believe will help you really get ahead. When you prompt Midjourney, it creates 4 images for every one prompt. And chaos tells Midjourney how differentiated those 4 images can be, how much permission you're giving them. So if you're in a really early brainstorming and creative phase, I'd say ratchet up the chaos so that you can see a wider range, and then you can start to hone and focus from there, which we'll get to on the next slide. So, sorry for the formatting here. So then, after we have the settings together, now we can start to prompt. And this is exactly as it looks when you're prompting ChatGPT, which I am sure everybody in this room has tried. So to do that, you have to start by doing a / and imagine. And again, it's a little bit difficult to use in this moment before they release their full website. So you start with / imagine, and then you start to write. You start to write all the creative thoughts and ideas that you have in your brain that you want to see manifested into an image. Now this is a great trick. If you want something that looks very high fidelity, start almost everything with a cinematic image up. That seems to be a great way to tell Midjourney what you're looking for, and I would suspect most of us want something that's of a cinematic quality. And then a couple other items that you can add into your description would be things like lighting. Do you want it soft, harsh, noir, etc.? And you can, reference back to famous artists or films. You can talk about camera angles if you're starting to think about the type of ethos you want these images, or as we get to videos and start putting them together, what you want them to convey. So adding the type of shot you're looking for. And then, again, you can reference back to artists that you like, or directors for style. So if you know you like a certain director and you want your images to start to look in that way, just reference back in the style of Wes Anderson, Benicio del Toro, etc. And then, as these tools, as we know, generative AI, the beauty of these tools, are they create many different ideas and concepts. But eventually, if we're working on marketing campaigns or advertising campaigns, we'd like to start art directing a little bit so that maybe there's a consistency of a style or a character. And this is where these tools are really starting to shine. And again, this is going to put you way ahead of your competitors and peers. So if you prompt, after you type in what you're looking for, a cinematic image of Peter Weltman on stage at DigiMarCon in the style of Wes Anderson, at the end you would say --CREF. And if there is a picture of me or of an actor or of somebody that you have online, you can take that URL and paste it right after. And then that will start to still use the power and creativity of generative AI, but you can start to focus the character so that you'll have a consistency across a campaign. The same is true for style. Let's say your brand or the brand you're working with already have a style that's referenced online or color palettes. You can take an image of something you've already created that might have the colors that you use or any of the other styles, and you can, again, instead of craft, you do dash dash strap or style reference, and take a URL of that image, and it won't reference what's on the image. The person, like if it's a hotel or a car, it will reference the colors and the style. So again, if people are already starting to work with brands, you can use that style reference, which I suspect will be really important for this crowd, and start to play around with new ideas, but then honor all the work that you've put into creating the brand identity. And really the best part is we all have this corpus of information, of creativity, of ideas, and so this is the time to use it. Use these prompts and think of all the things you know, because you're really art directing, but really use your creativity. Use what you know, try some things of connecting ideas that maybe don't feel like they go together, and really push hard, because you can just continue to create at a rapid speed, and eventually you'll start to find your generative AI voice and or the ways to prompt that make sense for your customers. So the next tool, which I won't spend too much time on, is Magnific. And why this is very good is as we start to flow the images into motion, we really need them to be at a very high resolution. So Magnific is just a tool that I really like. And these are, if you can see the difference, there's a line in the middle of all of them. You can start to see the fidelity of how much Magnific increases it from the before to the after. And I just like memes.
I'm a silver fox.
I just think that's funny. So you can make a lot of memes when you have generative AI. So this is the interface for Magnific. Pretty user-friendly. There's a few things that it does, but really you just take an image that you've removed from Midjourney, you put it in here. I just usually keep most of the parameters pretty much the same, and then I just upscale or up-res it to be at a very high fidelity. So next, we've taken our thoughts and our ideas and these settings. We've made images. We've made those images at a very high quality. Now it's time to animate them. So every one of these little animations started as an image. So Runway, you take your new high resolution image that we took from Magnific, and we paste it into Runway. Now, oftentimes, they ask for a description here. Oftentimes, I'll take the same description that I used in Midjourney and add it here. And in this case, it was fairly obvious what I wanted, a car going down the road, which we saw at the beginning. But you can also art direct here. So it's great to tell this product, Runway, what it is that the image already is, and then you can start to tell it what you'd like it to do. And this is kind of a new thing when it comes to creating with generative AI, is because it can generate a lot and very fast, we're kind of in a more is more. So definitely when you start on Runway, start with at least 5 generations. That's a healthy place to start, and then you'll see what the animation comes out with. And if you'll usually get 1 or 2 that are really good, a couple might start to deteriorate when the animation starts going, so you can get rid of those. But you always want to start with 5. It's kind of a waste to go 1 by 1 by 1 by 1, because the model is learning, and you're learning as well. And it's just a great place to start. So it's with these tools, especially Runway, I suggest buying a bigger package so that you have just more opportunities to generate. Another tool that's within Runway that I really like, that I suspect would be very critical for people who already work with brands and really want a little bit more art direction, is one of their newest tools called Motion Brush. So we started that interface where we just were, and then we can go to motion brush. And using these either fold, we can use the color to take over a whole thing, or even just little dots. We can tell this image what we'd like it to do. So, if you see the purple, it's on her right side of her lips, and it has an arrow to the left and up. The blue one, up. The yellow, this way. And then I have the back as kind of just ambient, just for movement. So, does anyone guess what I'd like her to do? It's fun. And so I show this because sometimes you can over art direct with motion brush, but a dot is actually a lot. And then if you go back to that previous screen and say a woman in a crowd smiling, you're then reinforcing what you'd like this to do. And there she is. And again, that started as a still image, and now it's a woman smiling. The next tool is pretty straightforward in what it does. So after we take the animation that we just created from Runway, we really like to amp up and ramp up the fidelity of this image. And you can take these to cinematic quality that can be blown up in a very huge way. So what I usually do is, this is also a good one to take a picture of because it's a little, it can be a little intense to use. So you just drag your video that you just created into here, and there's many different parameters that you can use. The main one you're looking for here is enhancement. And from what we've seen, the Proteus model right now, and that's the one selected, that's the best to enhance this video from a lower fidelity to something that's cinematic quality. The second is frame interpolation. What that's going to do is start to fill in places in your video that, as it gets to a higher resolution, and the Apollo is the best model that we've identified for that. There's way more you can do here, and if you're very familiar with Adobe or any of these other tools, you might play around a bit more, but those are the main ones that we use. And then I usually like to make it 4 times the size, and that's just above. So again, Topaz does something pretty remarkable, but we kind of use it in a pretty narrow way. And so now we've kind of walked you through the entire process. Your thoughts and ideas and settings into an image. That image all of a sudden is animated, and then that animated image is now something that is cinematic quality. And the ability to create this high fidelity, this fast, this creatively, at speeds we've never seen, is something that we're utilizing at our agency. And for example, I have a friend in Los Angeles who's a filmmaker and a writer, and he has this great script. He's been trying to get it in front of people who can make it, producers, venture capitalists, etc. And it's an amazing script. So I read it and I said, let's see what we can do with it. Let's animate this script into a little bit of a sizzle. This 20-second sizzle, he's now talking to venture capitalists and Apple, etc. Putting life in a fast way to ideas can totally get you ahead. So let's take a quick look at this sizzle that we created.
Freedom to ride waves. Freedom to fulfill my destiny.
So now Surf Mecca, which was my friend's idea, now has image, it has feeling, it has emotion, and it's starting to get him and our agency ahead to do the things we want to do. So think about that for anything that you're working on in your work or your agencies or with your clients, pitching, thinking of concepts to go out there. You can start creating at lightning speeds, and you will start to see the fruits of your labor. Now, this was a question posed to me at DigiMarCon in Los Angeles, and It was a great question, and it's something we all need to be aware of. Because as we start creating, it's good to know who owns these things. The assets that we make, who could potentially come after us, where does protection begin and end? So, it's a story of these apes, believe it or not. These monkeys set the precedent for copyright that relates to this day to how we use generative AI. And these are the selfie monkeys. I don't know if this is a story that anybody heard. But instead of me telling you about it, I'll let one of the selfie monkeys tell you all about it.
Hello, I'm one of the famous, now infamous, selfie monkeys. AI copyright has to do with my monkey troupe, wildlife photographer David J. Slater, and Wikimedia Commons. Mr. Slater set up cameras in our habitat for me and my friends to take selfies. He, understandably, figured that he owned the rights to these photographs. Well, it turns out that he didn't, and the US courts deemed that only human creators can hold copyrights. Moral of the story: monkey-created content is not copyrightable, for now, nor is content created by generative AI. This experience led me to study law and advocate for monkey creator rights. Now, let me hand it back to Man of the World Media for more intel, and I'll head back to my office.
Thank you. So monkeys can become lawyers, apparently. So what that means is, in this case, the photographer set up cameras in the Indonesian jungle, and monkeys were pushing the button to take their picture. Now, this photographer had set up the rig, they had the idea, and the photographer thought he owned the right to these photographs. And through a ton of legislation over almost 10 years, the courts deemed that he did not own, well, the monkeys didn't own the rights, the copyrights, but also this photographer didn't. How does that relate to generative AI? These tools do not own the copyright. So whatever you create on Midjourney does not own that copyright. At the same time, neither do you. So the question is, how can you protect yourself if you create something amazing? Well, your prompts, number one, your creativity, those are going to create things that are specific to you, your brand, or anything else that you're making. But the second is if you start to add what we'll call frosting on the cake, if you start to change the image with color correcting or animate it or add voices, you can start to plausibly have the copyright to that augmented image. Again, you still do not own the base, but neither does the AI. But the work you do thereafter, you own. So it's a really complex field, and it's continually evolving, and every country is different, but this is where the US stands for now. And I actually think it benefits creators. Anything you create in chat or in Midjourney, nobody else owns. You might not own that base image, but nobody else does either. So I actually think that's a pretty empowering place to be in your creative journey. So before I finish with some last images and thoughts, I did want to take a few minutes for questions now, if anybody had some.
I was trying to play around with ChatGPT. I'm like very late to the game. And my daughter's 22, and I said, "Oh my God, this is amazing! Look, I wrote this commercial sonnet in the
Sure.
Shakespeare. So great, you should learn this skill." And she said that her and her friends, they were like so anti-AI, and she was like militantly against it. Why is it that the younger generation are kind of like fighting against this creative?
Thank you for putting me in the camp of the younger generation. And what's your name? Rose. So I can't answer that specifically. I suspect a lot of the Gen Z, they're not as into social media and things like that, and they may put it in that camp. But no offense, they'll be behind. This is here, it's here to stay, and you can be the person who can hone and harness these tools for the things you want to do. And going to happen with or without them. So I think curiosity is a really important thing for now. I live in Los Angeles now, and so many of the writers who are on strike, they never even touched these tools. They didn't want to touch the enemy, but expression in some ways keep your friends close and potentially enemies closer. To not know about this is just malpractice. So I would encourage everybody to be extremely curious. Thank you for the question. Yeah.
For the audio portion, are you? How does that fall into copyright for like voice actors or that? And then how are you creating the audio? Is it like hits or?
Great question. So audio, I use something called 11 Labs. It's just another amazing tool, and that's probably the leader right now. Although OpenAI, who made ChatGPT, they're coming out with their own audio creation. So often I'm using ones that are almost like stock audio. I can create one of my own. You can take just a few, like a minute or less of a voice, and it can duplicate it essentially. And again, creating a lot of iterations is important because it'll fumble words. Now what's really interesting is down the pipe, actors I'm seeing, especially even on 11 Labs, they're already kind of like syndicating their voice on there, so you can use it, and if it becomes used, they're getting paid on the back end. So there's some really cool creator things happening. Again, it's still a bit of a Wild West, but that's a specific one. And I would look up 11 Labs, and that's the audio that we use. Yeah. And so, what was your name? Yeah, James. And what's your name?
Jim.
Jim. Thank you, Jim.
So your surf video for your friend, you used 4 tools to make that.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to do that?
Gosh. Probably, I mean, I worked on and off for like 4 days. I don't remember how many hours, but I mean, I didn't have an actor. I created that actor. I created, the ideas. I took generative AI music, created the voiceover from 11 Labs. So this was just not possible. Why on earth would I go get people to put this together for a sizzle that may or may not happen? So it's, allowed us to do things that were just not possible, moving at a speed that is unthinkable, and in a time frame that is completely reasonable.
One more question. You're talking about voiceovers. So let's say you take a well-known actor or somebody's voice, okay, and you take it and you put it into.
You can get in trouble for that. They're like,
they're part of the deal.
okay.
See, so you take their voice and you do voiceovers, and they get paid for it. Okay, that's not what I'm asking. So, is that part of this 4 tool set, or is that some other tool that does?
11 Labs would do that. So you could take, let's say you're friends with Brad Pitt, because I'm sure someone in this room is. So you could say, hey Brad, can I take your voice and clone it, essentially? And he's like, sure. So you could take clips of Brad Pitt, you put it on 11 Labs, and now it has a model of Brad Pitt's voice. And now you can type whatever you'd like, and it will generate, in Brad Pitt's voice, what you typed. So 11 Labs is still the place to do it. Where I created the actual lip syncing, that was in Runway. So I took the 11 Labs, and sorry if I missed to tell you that, but I took the 11 Labs audio, because it's at a really high fidelity, and I brought that into Runway as part of that creation process. It's a really nice question, thank you. So I'll take one more and then I'll continue, but I'll be here to answer any questions as well, and I still have more to finish as well. Yeah? And what's your name?
Thank you. So my name is Bassam. I'd like to ask you a question.
Sure.
You mentioned all of those things with Neanderthal a couple of years ago. So I'll just use the same analogy and ask you about, like 50 years ago, people would never think that they can call anyone or use phone and cell phone to simplify the concept. Now I wanted to ask you about what could be next within the next 2 years, since you are working closely with the industry of AI. What could be next? I have personally seen the videos was like really going to the next level within 1 year. So what could be next from your experience based on your engagement with
Thank you for the question. I know, I mean, the creators are going to create, and creators will push these tools in some ways, but first and foremost, we're talking about these in regards to film, but there might be something later. You know, film wasn't a thing. You know, they used to say a camera was a mirror with memory before you could understand it as a camera. So absolutely, this is going to change potentially how we talk about film. This was spoken about at the film premiere last night. But one of the big things that sounded really interesting would be real-time video creation. So it might start with an image and then in real time at a super high fidelity without a lapse at all, a film will be created. And so real time is something that I hadn't even thought of until I heard it last night, and I was kind of tickled by such an amazing idea of what's possible. So again, thank you for the question. I'll continue to be here, but I'd like to show you a few more things before we wrap up. So in this idea of the art of the possible, TED, which we all know, puts on TED Talks, and it's a vanguard of new thoughts and ideas and concepts. They're celebrating their 50th year. And a guy named Paul Trillo put together this video using the latest generative AI video model called Sora, which is only out to a limited number of people and is created by OpenAI, who made ChatGPT. And so TED is in the game, and this video was created in 5 days. Only 5 days. I'd love to show it to you. Film director of over 15 years who's continually been at the precipice and on the cutting edge of technology in film. So let's be fair, he's got a huge amount of knowledge and information to pull this off. But that tool, when I talked to him last night, that tool, Sora, these tools that we're learning about today, they make something like this possible in a short time frame that for me is mesmerizing. And again, don't take our word for it, take Paul's word for it, take Ted's word for it, that AI is something that is going to continually be at the forefront of creation and ideas, and we wanted to make sure that everyone here had those. So, I guess these are in weird order. So, the recap, we taught you all of our, for now, AI workflows with the tools that we love, that we have shown you how to really dig into, set the settings so you can start to direct whether it's new ideas or take any of the work you're doing with your current customers, clients, and start to press and push their imagination, but within their brand guidelines. The copyright landscape, which is ever evolving. I work with one of the best in the world, and she allowed me to put her name up here, so if you guys want to take a picture, Julie Greenberg, if you ever need help in this way, Julie is one of the preeminent leaders in this, and we've worked for years together. And so now you know where we're at with copyright and where might it go and how you can create with confidence and safety. And then again, if anyone is like me, the bonus is just remember coffee is always, always, always a great idea. So this QR code will take you directly to my LinkedIn. If you would like, take out your phones, say hi to me there. I will happily send you the presentation so you can have some of the settings just right in front of you and play around. And again, I really want to encourage everybody to lead with curiosity, create more, create better, and just continue to do so. And I do hope, and I really believe these generative AI tools will get you there to do it. Thank you so much for your time.